Eric, you're always a concert for us.
Thank you so much.
Who needs to go to the Kennedy Center? Okay. Before we get started, I need to make sure everybody can hear. Is it good in the back? Okay, let me know. Sometimes I forget to put in my hearing aids and I can sit in the back and like, what are they saying? So I can speak louder. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Rappahannock. I'm Selene Roden, and I have the good fortune of being your service leader this morning. We gather in fellowship every Sunday morning from different backgrounds, lifestyles, spiritual beliefs, and experiences, celebrating and embracing a commitment to diversity and inclusion. May our joining together be welcoming and a blessing to each of us. A special greeting to our visitors. Please join us for our coffee hour. We always have yummy foods and lots of good fellowship during that time. Now, you need to do this too. Please silence your cell phones. Over here. As I light the chalice, Rob is going to share words with us because I don't have the words. We're doing it a little different this time. As Rob lights the chalice.
Good morning. Good morning. So we light this chalice to remember that it is good to make space for breath. That work is not the measure of worthiness. That filling one's life to the brim leaves no room for grace and surprise to slip in. Welcome, friends. Let us make space and be renewed. You who are brokenhearted, who woke today with the winds of despair whistling through your mind, come in. You who are brave but wounded, limping through life and hurting with every step, come in. You who are fearful, who live with shadows hovering over your shoulders, come in. This place is sanctuary, and it is for you. You who are filled with happiness, whose abundance overflows, come in. You who walk through the world with lightness and grace, who awoke this morning with strength and hope, you have everything to give. Come in. This place is your calling, a riverbank to channel the sweet waters of your life, the place where you are called by the world's need. Come in. Here we offer love. Here we receive in gratitude. Here we make a circle from the great gifts of breath, attention, and purpose. Come in and let us worship in despair, in shadow, in grace, and in hope. And now, please rise and
Find a
to share with us service as a spiritual practice. Diana.
First of all, I would like to say it's rather classy of the two of you coordinating your outfits. So what I'm about to talk about is an experiment. It's not official. It just was something that I thought was such a great idea. I took and ran with it. I wanted to get something in the chalice, and there's always that deadline of the 25th of the month. And so if I didn't communicate what I'm about to do to all of the people who came up with some ideas recently about how the leadership development team might move forward, I apologize. I just love the idea of re-looking at how we invite the fellowship to be a part of the service of the fellowship. And so I coined the phrase, what did I call it? Service as a spiritual practice. And I want to really dive deeper into that at some point, but today what I'm doing is what I'm calling a very small ask. I know that we often have big asks of you, and that seems overwhelming, and people aren't in a position to say yes to big asks. But maybe for small acts, we can all say yes as a part of our service to the fellowship. So my ask of you today is, if you know of anybody who might be a good speaker, we have a few more spots to fill on the program committee calendar, and we're looking for speakers in the area that you all might find of interest. So if you know of someone, and I have had a number of people come up to me with some really good ideas once they read what we put in the chalice and in the connection. But we're open to many more good ideas. So I'm around, just let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. You do have a leadership development team, and we're playing around with the term leadership too and trying to soften that, but it's moving in the direction of micro-volunteering so that people won't always feel so overwhelmed if asked to be a leader. So stay tuned. We have all sorts of exciting things going on. And thank you, Diana, that was lovely. So, do we have youth in the room that we need to sing out?
But
Yes.
I would still like to do the story for all ages.
Yes. Come up.
So this story actually came from a Unitarian Universalist packet you can find online, and I thought it was really appropriate. So once upon a time, there were 7 colors. They were all perfectly happy living by themselves on little bits of earth. And actually, they didn't really think much of each other. Each of these colors had their own attitudes and names. Now, each of these colors thought they were just great. Whenever they came near each other, they quarreled about which was the most important color. Green said, "Of course it's me. I'm the color of the trees and the grass and calming. Of course it's me. I'm the most important color. The whole countryside is green." But Blue wasn't having any of that. She said, "That's nonsense. I'm far more important. I'm the color of the sky and the water, and without water we would die. I'm the most important color." And Yellow said, "Oh, you're all so serious. The color of fun and laughter and giggling. I'm the color of sunflowers and the sun and the moon, and I make people smile. I'm the most important color." And then Indigo piped up, "Well, I'm subtle. I'm the color of peace and reflection and meditation. If it wasn't for you, you'd all go mad with busyness. I'm the most important color. And purple started as well. Well, I'm the color of kings and important things and ceremonies and royalty. People listen to me. I'm the most important color. And orange said, you're all wrong. I'm the color of fruit and vegetables and where you get all your vitamins. I'm healthy and cheerful. I'm the color of sunrise. Without the orange sunrise, it would be night all the time. So I'm obviously the most important color. And finally, red got angry. You're all so stupid. The color of blood, and blood gives us life. I'm the color of danger and warning and road safety and fighting and force. I'm definitely the most important color. And then the colors started to all tussle with each other over who was the most important, and it started to rain. And you all know what happens when you mix colors together. That big, muddy, ugly mess that comes out of that. So then the rain spoke to them. You silly, silly things. Stop fighting. Stop trying to make yourself sound more important than each other. You were all designed for different things, and you're all needed for your own purposes. If you work together, you won't need to be that muddy brown color. If you work together, you can make a rainbow. So from then on, the colors stopped squabbling, started working together, and every so often when it rained on a sunny day, they got together to make a beautiful display in the sky to remind everyone about peace and cooperation. So every time you see a rainbow, I hope you remember that every person, every group of people, every nation has their own contributions, and together we can make everything beautiful.
Thank you, that was quite lovely. At UUFR, we share our joys, so much more joyful when celebrated with friends. We share worries and concerns, for sharing them can lighten the load, even if for a short time. You are each invited, as you wish, to come forward and drop a tea glass in the water and share your joy or your concern with the fellowship.
I'm going to pick a couple of those colors. One is yellow for the sun, and the second is blue for the sky. When I wake up in the morning, usually I'm grouchy, but if I look out the window and I see yellow and blue, I turn out to be a half-decent guy for a part of the day.
I have a great joy and a great concern today for the 12 courageous members of the Manhattan jury that found Donald Trump guilty. And I will pray, although I don't pray, but I will pray for this, that in November, all of the voters look to them for their courage and have the same courage to vote for somebody beside him.
Well,
Soak them all in.
Big mouth.
We got it.
Leave some for me.
My joy is to let you know that Lois is out of the hospital and back at RWC in the health center. Paul and I went to see her on Tuesday, and she, as always, still has her sense of humor, but she was looking very frail. I went over again yesterday, and she was a little more perky and up in her wheelchair, and by some magic fate, her roommate in the health center is Judy Caples, another of our UU members, and so at least they have something to talk about.
And kind of a concern is that there's no children here today, and it was my day to teach. Julia Howe Ward proclaimed June 2nd as a Mother's Day of Peace, mostly because it was mothers that had all their teachings undone. They teach their kids kindness, war teaches hate, and they learn to help others. War teaches them to kill each other. That's a long list of how war goes against what mothers do. Unfortunately, about 25 years later, it got usurped to May to be just Mother's Day in general. But I wanted the kids to learn about peace, and I know they can't solve world peace, and I thought, you can learn inner peace. And I think a lot of our wars start if we don't have that inner peace. We're angry at others. Just look at what's going on in the news. We didn't get our way, we should kill everybody. Oops, sorry. That wasn't emphasis on purpose, but this is a poem by Lao Tzu. If there's to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there's to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there's to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there's to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there's to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart.
Personal situation. The reason why I'm being late all the time is my back. It still hurts, still being in trouble. And I really love to be able to get back to my bouncy self. But I don't know how long it'll take. It seems like it'll take a while. So I'm sorry about being late and not making the coffee. But I'm going to try really hard now to get here early and make the coffee and return to my bouncy self. Thank you.
Don't we love you bouncy or not? I have a joy. Hank and I made lunch and took it over to Marge and Dave Rowden's on Friday and had a nice long visit. We probably stayed too long, but I think they enjoyed the having the company. And Marge seems to be doing fine. She's in a boot now, but still in a wheelchair, and she'll be in the boot for a month. And of course, she's going through chemo as well, but she seems her spirits are up, and we had a lovely visit. So here's to Marge and Dave, and continuing to get better. As a caring fellowship, we lift up every joy, every gladness. We hold every hurt, every sadness shared and unspoken this morning. Our reading this morning, as selected by Rob Moore, that he's allowing me to read it. Thank you, Rob. And it's lovely. There are many ways to describe pilgrimage. On pilgrimage, the traveler is a stranger in several ways. A stranger to the companions she meets along the way, a stranger to places visited, a stranger to the inward journey of meaning and transformation. On some level, pilgrimage always connotes a life-changing journey. For some, pilgrimage means journey to a place where holiness is apparent and where some kind of divine and human encounter took place. Some describe the experience as a search for spiritual depth or moral significance. Others are on a search for a path toward freedom or peace. Some pilgrims are directed toward specific destinations, such as a dwelling place of a saint, or a holy place that evokes prayer and reflection, or the site of a significant life event. For others, the passage is symbolic of the journey of a soul to God, and primarily an inward experience of alternative sacred geography. Still others describe pilgrimage as a threshold experience that points to a new reality or a process of inner transformation. We are all, at some point or another, pilgrims in this life. And Rob has a meditation to do with us.
So to continue our theme of pilgrimage today, you have an insert today. And so when I go to different congregations, I like to be a little trouble every now and then and give the congregation a little extra to do in terms of administrative stuff. So our first kind of dealing with pilgrimage is going to be our reflection today with this. And I'll explain more about it during the sermon, but for now, I want to invite you to take your non-dominant hand. For me, that's my left hand. For others, it may be different. And so what this is, obviously, is a labyrinth. I hear that you have a labyrinth here on your grounds. But this is, we're going to use this today as a finger labyrinth. So we're going to just trace it with our finger as we go through our reflection and meditation time this morning. So I'll invite you to go ahead and put your non-dominant hand finger at the threshold of the labyrinth. And as we linger on the threshold of the labyrinth, I invite you to just take a few deep breaths to find that place of comfort in your seat. Maybe feet both on the floor, feeling the earth beneath you, finding that place of balance in your chair, supporting yourself. And as we enter the labyrinth with our finger, on the way in toward the center, as we trace through the path, and as you know, there's only one path in, one path out, same path. There's no place to get stuck or a dead end. Lots of twists and turns. Sometimes there'll be a long stretch, and then some more twists and turns. So on the way in, one instruction can be to be aware of what you need to let go of in this moment. What needs to be released as we make our way to the sacred center. Perhaps we can release wondering what we're going to have for lunch later. Or perhaps we need to release some unkind words that were said earlier this morning, either to us or by us. Or maybe we need to release something that's heavy in our heart for just this moment, knowing that we can pick it up again later. Just be aware as we're making our way in what might be arising for you. Maybe a resistance to this activity in the first place. Or maybe a wish that you could do this more often. So just notice what you see. Follow your breath. Or notice if you're holding your breath as you're concentrating on the path. And if you notice that you got off track somehow, like I think I'm noticing right now, that's okay. You'll still get there eventually. As you make your way to the center, as we linger in the center, we'll begin our journey back out. The center is just a place to listen, to receive. What is your true or best self saying to you right now? What is that still, small voice within saying? If anything, maybe it's just silent. And as you make your way out, maybe reflect on what you've noticed, what you've heard. Is there an invitation in what I've noticed or what I've heard? Is there something to do, or to be, a new way of being that I've heard in the labyrinth? On the way out is the path of return and integration. Joining with what we learned, or what we noticed, or what we heard back into our everyday life. And as we make our way out of the labyrinth, may we take what we have heard. May we be a blessing upon this world. As we stand at the threshold on our way out, let's again take those few deep breaths as we make our way back into the rest of this service and into the world. Amen.
That's a wonderful meditation. That oatmeal I spilled on the floor this morning just jumped right out of my mouth. UUFR is a self-sustaining fellowship, and thereby relying on your gifts to support our many ministries within the fellowship and in our area-wide communities. We invite you to exercise that all-important generosity and community spirit with our offering basket. Your gift will be most appreciated. If you are a first-time visitor, let the basket pass you by. Your presence is gift enough. And many of you send your checks in, so you may also let the basket pass you by. Zoomers can make their donations online at www.uufrva.org. Find the donate button on the menu. Please know that we will be good stewards of your gifts. Thank you. Okay, so let me introduce you to Reverend Rob Moore. because Rob and I are sharing the podium far more than usually happens, and I absolutely love that. So, Reverend Rob Bohr was ordained in the Unitarian Universalist ministry in 2001. He is trained as a spiritual director and most recently was at the affiliated community ministry at Horizon UU in Carrollton, Texas. He moved to Richmond in 2002 and currently works at Travelers Insurance, where among other responsibilities, he leads mindfulness sessions and insistent plans for an enterprise-wide mindfulness programs. Rob has served as interim ministries in Grand Junction, Colorado, Port Townsend, Washington, two of my favorite towns. In Texas, he was one of 3 ministers on staff of the Large Pathways Church. He has taught teen sexuality education, led a few small spiritual formation groups, and has participated in various choirs along the way. The latest is the Richmond Men's Choir, so maybe we have a field trip. And now, the Reverend Rob Moore, Pilgrim's Path.
Early in my contemplative training, I heard the following prayer by George Atwood. Give me a candle of the Spirit, O God, as I go down into the deep of my own being. Show me the hidden things. Take me down to the spring of my life, and tell me my nature and my name. Give me freedom to grow so that I may become my true self, the fulfillment of the seed which you planted in me at my making. Out of the deep I cry unto thee, O God. Amen. So as I reflected on this prayer in silence, a scene unfolded in my mind and my heart, and I entered a deep, dark cave. It was big enough that I didn't feel cramped or uneasy, and I was beckoned onward by a shimmer of light, and descended farther to find more of an open room of the cave. It was illuminated by a single shaft of light. Through the opening from above, water trickled down the walls and directly down, creating a small pool, which was bathed in the light. As I was drawn to the pool, I came to the edge and knelt down beside the water. I placed my hand in and swirled it around as I listened to the trickle of the water. And I came into a stillness. And as I sat there, a question arose in my heart. What is my true nature and my true name? And out of the pool emerged wisps of smoke that floated right above. And as those silvery streaks formed into letters and words, I was able to read Pilgrim. And I knew that that was my nature and my name. And I've held on to that vision and that true name and true nature ever since. I consider myself a pilgrim on this journey of life and on the contemplative and spiritual path. I named my spiritual direction ministry Pilgrimage Spiritual Ministries, and thus became a seeker of pilgrimage. And as I next looked further into what pilgrim and pilgrimage means, I came to a description from Parker Palmer. He writes, most of us arrive at a sense of self and vocation only after a long journey through alien lands. It is akin to the ancient tradition of pilgrimage, a transformative journey to a sacred center, full of hardship, darkness, and peril. In the tradition of pilgrimage, those hardships are seen not as accidental, but as integral to the journey itself. which can strip the ego of the illusion that it is in charge and make space for the true self to emerge. If that happens, the pilgrim has a better chance to find the sacred center they seek. Disabused of our illusions by much travel and travail, we awaken one day to find that sacred center and find that it is here and now, in every moment of the journey, everywhere in the world around us, and deep within our hearts. And so after all that, are you ready to sign up for a trip with me? Sounds pretty daunting. And it is pretty daunting. And so not many of us are that willing and able to sign on for something that involved. But for me, though, it is an apt description of the spiritual or contemplative path. I advocated much the same when I visited here last year during the holidays, through all of that busyness in the midst of all the wonder and the joy. We will find hardships on life's journey. We will also find many joys along the way. Through all the hardships and joys, challenges and wonder, we hope to make our way to our sacred center. Pilgrimage or spiritual travel is simply an active outward practice toward that sacred center that makes explicit our intention to pay attention, to surrender to the moment and to the journey, and to notice what joys and challenges await us there. So let us look into this practice of pilgrimage today. Remind ourselves or discover some places to travel, discover some ways to experience pilgrimage even when we can't travel. And finally, what we may find there along the way, no matter how we practice it. So pilgrimages have been around for millennia. We see them in our stories, in our movies and myths and legends. The Wizard of Oz is a pilgrimage. The Canterbury Tales is a pilgrimage. They have become archetypal in all of this time, and there are certain stages to the journey that we can tease out. There are a lot of different versions of these archetypes for the pilgrimage, but for today we have separation, transition, or the journey itself, and then return and integration. So in this initial stage of separation, we decide to leave what we know and strike out into the unknown. This decision is sometimes external to us, or perhaps out of our control. Some inciting incidents, as they call it in stories and movies. The hero or heroine oftentimes reluctantly is shoved out into the world, perhaps by death or illness or breakdown or a tornado, a new love, something that forces them to leave what is known and take that initial step into the unknown. Sometimes in real life, the decision is more internal. There is a call, an invitation of the heart that beckons us to separate, sometimes temporarily, sometimes more permanently, from what we have known. Perhaps it is a call to escape boredom or stuckness. Perhaps it is a call to adventure or wonder. Perhaps it is a call to service in unfamiliar locations. Part of the preparation is often discernment of the call or the invitation. Is there a way to avoid the journey is often an early question. Where do I go? Why do I want to go? All part of the contemplative or spiritual aspect of travel in this way. Whether internal or external, the decision to leave is made, but separation often cannot happen alone. Preparations must be made. Those staying behind often have to give blessings to our journey, or provide financial support, or make their own arrangements to take care of the home front. Perhaps preparations must be made for the arduous journey itself. Do I have the necessary provisions, equipment, logistics, and on and on? And if these are made absent-mindedly or carelessly, the journey will be that much more challenging. Of course, sometimes there is no time for preparation. and we must go anyway and meet what comes as best we can. And as we embark on the journey itself, we find ourselves in some sort of transition. This is the in-between space, which is often the liminal or spiritual space. We have left the familiar, our known way of being, and ventured into the unknown. We are on our way to something different, but we have not found our way of new being yet. Here we are strangers in a strange land. We are strangers to the location. We are strangers to those who are on the journey with us. We could be strangers even to ourselves, this new version of ourselves that is not yet fully formed. And in this space, we so often fight that strangeness, the mystery. Just as the Israelites tried to return to the familiar in Egypt, even though it meant returning to literal slavery, so too are we tempted to return before our journey is complete. Into this mystery, we enter places of discomfort and ambiguity, and we don't like these feelings very often. We much prefer the familiar and the routine, even if we were just bristling at that familiarity a few hours or days before. So the inner work of pilgrimage becomes surrendering to the feelings and the experiences, surrendering to the travel delays, the sparse accommodations, the strange food and the strange people. Also surrendering to the beauty and the joy that we find along the way, to the new friends we meet or have yet to meet. Surrendering to all and allowing it all, and noticing the lessons contained therein. What needs to be released or to let go of? What needs to be born or reborn within me? Within this intention, we trek on and continue our journey. And then at some point, it is time to return. Perhaps it is to return home from where you started. Perhaps it is return to some form of day-to-day life, even in a new home. You know you are changed somehow, but may not be able to articulate how just quite yet. And even if we return home, it will be different because we are different. As T.S. Eliot reminds us, we shall not cease from exploration. And at the end of all our exploring, we will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. The return is a return, maybe for that first time, to our true selves. Part of the journey of pilgrimage is to notice the ego way of doing and being, and to answer the call to different choices and different ways of being and doing. These new ways of being move toward our true selves. And as we return living out of more of our best selves, the place itself shifts and changes because our response to it and what we see from it and what we give to it has shifted and changed. It may take some time for those relationships to get back to some sort of equilibrium. Perhaps some of our relationships need to fall away. Perhaps the return has strengthened them in immeasurable ways. This again can be what makes the journey so perilous. The return itself is so much mystery for the traveler and for those waiting at home. And with this return begins the sometimes long process of integration and incorporation. The change of the traveler can take a while to integrate. Perhaps it was just all too much. I can't even talk about it yet. Perhaps the shifts were more subtle than that. Being able to access them or articulate them is too difficult for a while. Whatever the internal shift comes, after the ecstasy, the laundry. My favorite book title. Integration means eventually we have to figure out how to return to our day-to-day existence in the midst of the changes within us. It is often way too easy to revert back to the things as they were. And surrendering to and embarking on pilgrimage is to commit to that not happening and to remain awake and changed and to go wherever that leads, even when it is challenging and unknown, in the midst of the excitement and the energy. And I know all of that can sound quite daunting, and it can be. But the gift of pilgrimage is to travel to the destination itself. The destination can be intentionally chosen to help us with these spiritual and contemplative practices. We seek out quiet places, places of memory, places where the divine has already visited, places from one faith tradition or another. And we seek out all those types of places that we heard in our reading this morning. So running through a few from a variety of traditions may give us some ideas for where to go if we have the opportunity. From the Buddhist tradition, we have pilgrimages that correspond to the 4 sites associated with the Buddha. His birthplace, the place of the Bodhi tree where he gained enlightenment, the place where he first turned the wheel of the Dharma, which is what we might call his first sermon, and the place where he attained final nirvana. We have pilgrimages to the Holy Land in and around Jerusalem, rooted in all of the Abrahamic faith. Didn't realize how hard a word that would be to say. So Judaism, Christianity, Islam all have pilgrimages around the Holy Land. In addition, of course, Islam has the Hajj, or pilgrimage to Mecca, which is a core principle and aspiration for all believers in that faith. Christianity has many pilgrimage destinations beyond the Holy Land: the Vatican, St. Peter's in Rome, Canterbury in England, which we already mentioned, or places of visions of Mary and Lourdes, or Fatima, Portugal. Then, of course, there are many secular pilgrimages not tied to any particular faith tradition. We have natural destinations like our many national and state parks, cultural touchstones like Graceland or Sports Hall of Fame, historical or memorial locations like Civil War battlefields, the 9/11 Memorial, Civil Rights Museums, the lynching and Holocaust memorials. These destinations can be grouped in other ways as well that may help narrow down our search or discern a specific call. Some are called to quiet places. These sites invite us to silence, solitude, meditation, and prayer. One example from our own tradition is Walden Pond, which attracts many UUs and non-UUs each and every year. Less known to many of us might be the multitude of monasteries or convents, sanghas, cathedrals, retreat centers around the country and around the world, where we can go for a few hours or a few days or months to be in quiet and focused practice. Places like Plum Village in France, where Thich Nhat Hanh established his community, along with the 3 locations here in the States, in New York, California, and Mississippi. Another category is the divine activity places. Places, some of which we've already named, where tradition or legend has it the divine and the human has interacted. For example, the Bodhi tree in India, or the Taizé community in France, established as a place of prayer and refuge for those suffering from World War II, that has invoked divine activity through the prayers and chants of those who have suffered and are suffering. So there are many destinations for pilgrimage that show up in many different categories. One final destination encompasses many of these aspects as a religious, secular, sacred landscape, memory, quiet, and define activity, and that is the island of Iona off the coast of Scotland. This is the current destination in my call to pilgrimage. I have been waiting and discerning, not always patiently, for the opportunity to travel to Iona. The history and legend of Iona is fascinating to me because it does touch on many of these categories. Geographically, it includes some of the oldest rocks on Earth and is considered a thin place of sacred landscape. It is claimed as a sacred site for Druids. It was an early Christian monastery site starting in the 6th century. Think about that, the year 500s. There was already a monastery there. Legend has it was also the place where the Book of Kells was created, which is an ornate collection of Christian symbolism and includes 4 stories of the life of Christ. Historically, it is also a final resting place for many kings of Scotland, Ireland, and Norway, maybe even including Macbeth. But I'm also attracted to it because it requires almost every mode of transportation to get there. The trek is long in and of itself and includes travel on plane, a ferry or two, a car or a bus, and a train. And if you haven't figured it out by now, I tend to go for the hardest thing, to give my spiritual practice a little extra oomph. If we're going to go, let's go all in, right? So as you can probably guess from some of these places just mentioned in the travel logistics involved, these pilgrimages are not cheap a lot of the time. You often have to save up for years, and that's part of the preparation phase. And even with all the preparation in the world, many or all of these trips may not be possible for many reasons. Finances, health, mobility, and on and on. So how do we practice pilgrimage then? We actually have a few options. So first off, with technology these days, we have the opportunity to engage in virtual pilgrimages. Now this might be, you might imagine this could be a bit controversial. So if you're going on a pilgrimage virtually, you're automatically missing a big part of the experience, the actual travel, and all of the joys and challenges therein. But I'm a believer in using technology where you can, and however it fits in terms of contemplation and spiritual practice. And I think this could work just fine with a little extra attention and intention. Since you will miss that part of the physical aspect of it, you'll have to be even more intentional to commit to the contemplative reflection and inner work while you are taking the virtual pilgrimage. And notice what feelings are arising in you. What resistance are you having to just being on the screen versus there? And really notice and take in the beauty and the wonder that you are experiencing on that screen. And you will miss the social aspect with the strangers as well, but that can still happen to varying degrees through the chats and discussion boards and other things that are usually set up. Now the next option you're familiar with, we just started it today with our reflection, and that is the labyrinth. Where I am in Richmond, we have a few options. We have one at UU Church here. You obviously have one here. There's one in Public Park, not far from where we are, and at a retreat center in Richmond, and so I'm sure many other churches around there as well. The labyrinth first became popular in the mid to late Middle Ages as many cathedrals were being built, and they were specifically designed and created to mimic the pilgrimage journey. In a labyrinth, there is only one way in and one way out. And the finger labyrinth we used earlier is a representation of the famous labyrinth in Chartres Cathedral in France, which was built around 1200. This particular design is meant to symbolize the many twists and turns of life, all leading to our center or our source. As labyrinths has gained in popularity in the last decade or more, the interpretation of that center or source has broadened to include not only God like it would be in the Christian tradition, but expanded to the true self, or our heart, or our center of our being. And however you want or need to think about what that center is for you, that is welcome on the labyrinth journey. So the path inward in a labyrinth, whether walking or with your finger or stylus, is often thought to allow the letting go of what needs to go in order to be present to your source or higher power. Sometimes we might go in with a question, and once you get to the center, you can remain in silence to listen for that still small voice within, or just be present to whatever is in the moment. And on the way out is the return home, where we try to integrate what we learned or heard on in the way into our center. How have we changed in that journey? How have we been called or invited? The labyrinth intentionally matches up with the stages of pilgrimage. And if you don't have a labyrinth handy either, there are other options, or simply just walking meditation in general. While there is no particular path to follow that symbolizes life's journey, walking meditation can be done with the same intention and attention as if you were on the labyrinth. And finally, we do have the finger labyrinth we just used earlier. So if you can't do that, you can't travel, you can't walk, you can't, mobility is an issue, you can't hook up to technology, you also have a piece of paper that you can use. So however we end up doing pilgrimage, a final metaphor for what I am describing is a journey to the center of the heart. The call to pilgrimage is so often a call to the human heart. Perhaps that call is to heal a broken heart. Perhaps it is the heart's longing for God, however we might define or think of what God is. Perhaps it is a longing for connection or meaning. And whatever the journey might be for you or for me, the call and maybe even the result is some sort of transformation. It is this transformation that is both exciting and inviting, as well as challenging and unknown. As I mentioned, my call to Iona has been a longing in my heart for a long while. I have not always understood why pilgrimage, why Iona, but it is there. One possible answer is that a big part of my inner work is to be more embodied, more feeling, more present, more active, more invested in relationship. Pilgrimage then for me checks those boxes of spiritual practice that is off the chair or the cushion, out in real life among strangers whom I want to and have to engage. It is active in that I am walking. It is embodied because I am seeing, hearing, tasting, and smelling. What I hope happens is that I will let go of trying to control the whole experience. I will, of course, plan as needed for all the logistics, but then will I be able to let go of the plan once underway and greet whatever comes? I hope so. Whatever I notice about the journey, the many resistances, the petty annoyances, the reluctance to reach out to the person next to me and just say hi. The joy, the beauty, the wonder, all of it becomes my practice and leads me to the center of my heart. What your particular call to pilgrimage is will be unique to you, of course. In this way, I hope that you and I can begin or continue perhaps the longest journey of all, the journey from head to heart. My invitation to you then is to join me in taking the first step on the pilgrim's path, or maybe the next step if you are already a seasoned pilgrim. And as you travel this summer and beyond, I hope you choose to turn that travel into a pilgrimage. If you're not traveling, I hope you find another way to join the contemplative path in some way, whether it is active like the practices presented today, or the many other practices available to us like prayer or meditation or gardening or cooking or whatever speaks to you. And may we take that journey to the center of our hearts and find there healing, connection, and love. May it be so, and amen.
We'll stay here. We will have a session. Okay. Penny's first.
You mentioned Iona, I've not been, but I've heard of it, and in my mind, I am attracted to it as well, and it never occurred to me to do a virtual pilgrimage to Iona, to use the internet. So thank you very much for that. This has been an amazing talk, but we actually have 3 labyrinths, thank you, down here. We have this one, we have one at the Bay Center in Kilmarnock, and there's an absolutely wonderful one at St. Mary's Whitechapel. So I mean, I moved down here, okay, we're in the middle of nowhere, and we've got 3 labyrinths. Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
There's actually one at RWC as well.
Four.
Well, first, thank you. I'm ready to call my travel agent.
All right, good.
And the spiritual part of it really touched because I'm sure as with others, I found myself in either perhaps a deep wood or foreign land, just being so touched by what I didn't understand, but I just had to stop, perhaps sit on a rock, and just feel it all.
Yes.
And boy, that's worth the trip. Thank you.
I found it interesting that you asked us to use our non-dominant hand. Because it felt so awkward to me, I am totally left-sided. So to use the right hand was like, high heel and a sneaker.
Yeah.
So that was a good one, thank you.
I don't know about y'all, but I got totally lost in the path.
Yes.
I don't know if it's because I was talking at the same time, but.
No.
So,
We don't have that excuse.
yeah.
Are there others? Thank you, Rob. Oh,
Just one. I really liked at the end when you said that journey from the mind to the heart, head to the heart. Yeah.
by hook or crook, I will one day go see the Northern Lights.
There we go.
And that will be my moment.
Yes. Great job. So as we extinguish this flame, which is already extinguished, knowing that however we arrived this morning, we are all changed at the end of this hour together, if only a barely perceptible amount. We stand now on the threshold of a new beginning, a new journey into the next moment, the next day, the next challenge or celebration. Perhaps like the pilgrim, we no longer connect in the same way to our previous way of being, but have also not yet discovered a new way of being or integrated that new way into our identity or life. May we be bold in taking another step into the unknown, knowing only that we are held, we are loved, and we are not on the path alone. So may it be, and amen.
Thank you, Rob. And now snacks.